The year is 48 AD. Autumn light, thin and pale, spills across the gardens of Lucullus on the edge of Rome. The air smells of damp earth and the last of the roses. A woman stands frozen among the imported trees and the whispering fountains. She is 25 years old. Her name is Valeria Messalina, Empress of Rome, and she is watching her death approach in the form of hard-eyed men in military cloaks. Her mother, Lepida, clutches at her arm, hissing desperate pleas for her to run, to fight, to do something. But Messalina cannot move. The soldiers fan out across the manicured lawns, their boots crushing the delicate foliage. These are not strangers. She has seen them in the palace, perhaps even summoned some to her notorious villas. Now they are here for her. This is a final, brutal arithmetic of a life lived on the edge of a knife. A life that began just 10 years prior, when she crossed another threshold, not as a condemned woman, but as salvation. The year is 38 AD. A girl of 15 steps into the vaulted shadows of the Palatine Palace. White silk, fine as spider silk, clings to her still-forming frame. A crown of myrtle leaves, sacred to Venus, rests on hair the color of hammered gold. The Roman Senate rises as one, a rustling sea of togas. The people packed into the forum beyond roar their approval. Taking her small hand is Tiberius Claudius, Caesar Augustus Germanicus, Emperor of Rome. He is 50 years old, a man whose left leg drags slightly, whose speech can catch in his throat, a lifelong embarrassment to his own family. His name is already legend for his scholarship, his perceived weakness. Hers is a blank page, waiting to be written. They expect her to save them. The blood from the assassination of Caligula, her predecessor's uncle, is barely a month dry. It's still there, a dark, coppery stain ground into the marble floors of these very corridors. For years of his reign had been a waking nightmare. Execution staged as entertainment, incest paraded as imperial policy, a madness so profound his own Praetorian guards cut him down in a dark tunnel beneath the palace. Rome is shattered, gasping for air. It needs stability, virtue, heirs. They have dressed this girl as the answer to all their prayers. Within a decade, she will transform this palace into a theater of the damned, a place the ancient sources would describe with trembling styluses. The first 2 years of her marriage were a masterclass in performance. Valeria Messalina gave Claudius a daughter, Claudia Octavia, and then a son, Britannicus, a name chosen to echo his father's conquest of Britain. The Senate breathed a collective sigh of relief. The empire had a future. She appeared at every state function draped in the stola, the modest garment of a Roman matron, her head covered, her eyes downcast. Every gesture was a carefully choreographed symbol of virtue. In public, she was the incarnation of everything Rome demanded of its women. But Rome, for all its lofty ideals, had a deeply divided soul. It carved its women into two stark categories, the matrona and the meretrix, the wife and the prostitute, the sacred guardian of the hearth and the profane creature of the night. One belonged in the atrium, raising children. The other belonged in the lurid, cramped cells of the Subura, the red light district, where men went to shed the heavy weight of civilization. The system worked only as long as these two worlds never, ever touched. Messalina, with the absolute power of an empress, decided to make them one. The first whisper surfaces around 42 AD. A senator, delayed on business from Ostia, finds himself in Rome for an unscheduled night. On an impulse he will regret for the rest of his life, he ventures into the Subura. The narrow streets reek of cheap wine, urine, and the smoke from tallow lamps. He chooses a cramped room, pays his coin. The woman who enters wears a dark wig, her eyes smudged with heavy coal, her skin doused in cheap perfume. Myrrh and roses trying desperately to mask an underlying scent of something far more expensive. She turns toward him. Their eyes meet. He recognizes the Empress of Rome. This wasn't a look-alike, wasn't a rumor. According to historian Tacitus, writing decades later with access to palace insiders, it was her, and it wasn't a single reckless night. Messalina allegedly adopted the working name Lysiska and became a regular at a brothel run by a woman named Scylla. Not for money, never for money, for the thrill, for the sheer, terrifying intoxication of it. Every client who didn't recognize her became an unwitting player in her game. Every man who did became someone she owned, body and soul. Because what could he do? Report the Empress? To whom? She was not just breaking the rules. She was weaponizing the very hypocrisy upon which Roman society was built. Senators kept mistresses. Generals visited brothels. Married men slept with slaves. It was the unspoken shadow of Roman virtue. But women, especially the Empress, were supposed to be above desire. They were marble statues, vessels for heirs, symbols. Messalina looked at that gilded cage and simply walked out the door. She would return to the palace before dawn, scrub the cheap perfume from her skin, wash the coal from her eyes, dress in imperial silk, and attend the morning sacrifice to Vesta, goddess of chastity, with the same serene expression she had worn the night before, as if nothing had happened. But the brothel was merely a laboratory, a private rehearsal. The real theater of power was inside the palace itself. Imagine the banquets. Rome's elite, draped in finery, sprawled on silk-covered couches around low, citrus wood tables. Golden platters groaned under the weight of roasted dormice glazed with honey. Exotic birds from Africa, wines from jeweled cups. Senators made small talk. Generals discussed the frontiers. It was all very civilized, until Messalina gave a signal. A slight tilt of her head. The servants would melt away. The heavy doors would close, and new guests would arrive. Gladiators, their skin still slick with the sand and blood of the arena. Actors from the theater, men considered morally bankrupt. Foreign captives, their eyes wide with confusion. Sometimes the teenage sons of the most respected patrician families, summoned under the pretense of discussing their fathers' careers. What happened next? The sources describe a mixture of horror and morbid fascination. Forced performances, humiliating contests. Senators were paired with their bitterest political rivals and ordered to perform degrading acts for the Empress's amusement. Aristocratic women, respectable matrons, wives and daughters of the men in the room, were coerced into playing the role of prostitutes while their husbands watched from across the room, paralyzed with a fear far more potent than any anger. Refusal was not an option. A tribune declined an invitation. 3 days later, his body was found floating in the Tiber. A nobleman tried to leave a party early. His family's estate was confiscated by week's end. The message was clear. The Empress of Rome did not accept no. This wasn't just debauchery. It was a systematic dismantling of the Roman elite, one soul at a time. Then comes a detail that is echoed down the millennia, the contest. The story appears in the writings of Pliny the Elder. He was documenting natural history. But this particular piece of human nature stuck with him. He writes of a competition between the Empress of Rome and a famous prostitute named Scylla. The prize was not money, but pride. The challenge: who could satisfy the most partners in a single night? Pliny records a final score with the clinical detachment of someone documenting a solar eclipse, yet with an undercurrent of stunned disbelief. Scylla managed 25. Messalina won with 25 plus 1. Was it true? Was it exaggerated propaganda designed to dehumanize a powerful woman? We will never know for certain. But the story survived 2,000 years because it captured something the Romans themselves couldn't articulate. A woman wielding sexual power not as submission, but as a form of absolute dominance. Rome had no language for that, no category. So they did what they always did with the unexplainable. They turned it into myth. But myths are not born from a vacuum. They rise from something real, something people witnessed and could not forget no matter how hard they tried. The palace became a theater where humiliation was the only currency. Senators arrived at dawn to beg favors and left at midnight, having performed acts they would carry to their graves in silence. Aristocratic families sent their daughters into the Empress's private chambers, praying they would return unmarried. Most did, some did not. No one dared ask questions, because by now, everyone understood the system. Messalina didn't just wield power, she collected it. She built a network of complicity so vast, so intricate, that no one could move against her without pulling the whole rotten structure down upon themselves. Every participant became a prisoner. Every witness became an accomplice. She didn't need the Senate's approval. She possessed their shame. And shame, she understood, was a far more reliable leash than loyalty. Loyalty can shift with the wind. Shame festers forever. And through it all, Claudius worked. He built the great aqueduct, the Aqua Claudia. He reformed the legal courts. He personally oversaw the expansion of the empire into Britain. He was a competent, underestimated emperor everyone had dismissed. Did he know? Of course he knew. Rome was gossiping. Senators were whispering. His own powerful freedmen were begging him to act. But what could he do? She was the mother of his 2 surviving heirs. To move against her was to admit to the entire empire that he was a cuckold, that he couldn't control his own household. It would mean civil war. It would prove his critics right. So he did what powerful men have done throughout history when faced with an unbearable truth. He looked away. He worked harder. Please like and subscribe my YouTube channel History Quest Archives for more video.